Yo, 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 what's up? This is Buttered Popcorn, and I am your host, Marlo. Today we are talking about top 10 sci-fi films of all time. This is just my personal opinion. I probably have a different taste than you, but that's the fun of it. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button. It really, really helps me out. I really appreciate it. Number 10 is Starship Troopers. This was released in 1997 by Paul Verhoeven. He's the director of RoboCop, Total Recall, and the infamous Showgirls. To me, this is such an underrated film. It's got this biting American military commentary, class commentary. Also is just an insane sci-fi film. If you don't know, it just follows a class of students as they go into the Marine Corps, basically in the future. And there's aliens. You know, they're fighting these bug-like aliens that are taking over the planet. And it's just funny, intense, crazy. It really kind of rings true to home even now. This was made in 1997, and it still holds up. I still watch it. It's just such a great sci-fi film, but such a great film in general. At the time, the visual effects were amazing. Brilliant alien bug design, just a lot of great action, perfectly casted. This is probably not in your top 10, but I love it. I just love it. I was going to do like an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation, but I can't remember a line from this film. Oh my God, there's the Predator! This movie is Predator. 1987, directed by John McTiernan. He did Die Hard, which is one of the best action films ever made. Obviously starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's going to make another appearance on this list, I believe, at least once. And just the design of the Predator is brilliant, from the special effects, the mask, just the cool alien design, the mouth, the creepy, like, friggin' crab mouth, the weapons that it uses, armor, the fact that it can mimic people's voices. It was brilliant. And I'm sure at that time, 1987, people went in the theaters and they freaked out. I mean, I definitely freaked out when I was a kid. But Carl Weathers, Bill Duke, Jesse Ventura as these macho, ultra male badasses. And it's kind of the ultimate guy film, the ultimate testosterone film. Number 8, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is 1977, no other than Steven Spielberg, and there will definitely be at least another Spielberg movie on this list. He's made so many great sci-fi films, and it's about Roy Neary, who has a close encounter with a UFO while he's working late nights in his truck, and then he becomes obsessed with the encounter, and he kind of travels cross country to find these answers of what happened. It's bringing all these different people from across the U.S. together, and they finally converge. And I don't want to spoil it in case you haven't seen it, but if you haven't seen it, watch it now. It's 1977. Effects still hold up, and it's just another classic filmmaking film. Steven Spielberg, obviously, master filmmaker. Again, the pacing is brilliant. Just there's heart in this film, and Richard Dreyfuss is just such a likable person and character. In Jaws, I loved him as well. And this journey, this kind of adventure, and there's some creepy things going on, and a brilliant third act. Aliens. I love it. Still watch it. I have it on Blu-ray. Such a great film. Number 7, Blade Runner. 1982, Ridley Scott. This is probably his best film. Harrison Ford, so cool as Deckard. Just a great actor. He's one of my favorite actors, just a superstar all around. Amazing world building. It inspired so many films, like a neon noir, drenched I don't know if it was post-apocalyptic, but just like a futuristic city, just like kind of like Tokyo. Just an interesting and relevant story about AI, about robots. Basically what a Deckard is like this detective, and he's tracking down these robots who have kind of escaped. So robots in this time frame are basically slaves. They live for only 4 years, and they're starting to rebel. They're starting to realize, why are we slaves? Why don't we get to live? We want to be free. And it's just so relevant to our society now, even though it was made in 1982. Some of these sci-fi films are so forward thinking, that this is a possibility of our future, whether you believe it or not. The advancements that we're making now, I could see specifically this Blade Runner future, I don't know, maybe 100 years from now or something, if the Earth stays alive. So deep, so layered, just an iconic, legendary film that inspired so many after it. Number 6. I don't know if this is controversial, that I feel like it might be, but Men in Black, the original, 1997. And how did they make this in 1997? Actually, I can say that for a lot of films on this list, because Sci-Fi, a lot of these great sci-fi films were made before the 2000s, and they didn't have the CGI we do now. And so it was practical effects, it was being imaginative, and there were great vis effects in a lot of these films, and this is one of them. Barry Sonnenfeld's the director who did Addams Family, which I love, and The Cursed, Wild Wild West. This is such a wild, funny, and it's like a perfect sci-fi blockbuster. Will Smith, so much charisma, so great in the role. I mean, try to remember him before the slap.
I'm sorry, was that your auntie?
Because it's hard for me to watch films with him in it, just because he's so cringe now. Pairing with Tommy Lee Jones is the perfect marriage, the perfect buddy comedy, sci-fi adventure. Special effects were unbelievable. The vis effects were unbelievable for the time, and they still hold up now. I mean, just remember the first opening scene with the dragonfly on the highway. It was so breathtaking. I saw it in theaters, and I was so blown away. And when I watch it now, I'm still blown away, because it's so smart, so funny. The humor is brilliant. I mean, I wanted to be a Men in Black agent. I think everybody wanted to be. The villain was brilliant. The guy who talks like this. Water. Sugar water. You remember that? Sugar water, bro. Loved it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's on my top 10, and I'm sticking with it. Number 5. Back to the Future. 1985, Robert Zemeckis. It's an absolute classic. Brilliant blockbuster. Michael J. Fox is so likable. Such a brilliant performance from Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown, and Crispin Glover, who's so funny in it, as George McFly, as Marty McFly's dad. Biff, Tom Wilson is Biff, who's like such a great bully antagonist. Just such a brilliant concept. Having to go back in time of, I think it was, so it's 1985. He goes back into the 50s when his parents were in high school, and he meets his mom, and his mom actually like kind of likes him in the beginning. He sees his dad, who's this super nerd, and it just connects so perfectly. And they nailed the 50s. I know they filmed on a Universal set. It's just like one of those films that you can put on anytime. It has that nostalgia factor, but it's just a great film in its own. Number 4. I know Kung Fu. The Matrix, 1999, The Wachowskis. Keanu Reeves, I don't think Keanu Reeves is an amazing actor, but there's so many films that he's in that I love. The Matrix being the number one. Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, all perfectly cast. This was a film that I saw in theaters and I was just blown away right off the bat at how deep it was. I was probably not even in high school at that point, or maybe I was like in grade 8, and it kind of opened me up into a new world, a new way of thinking. An early philosophical world opened up to me from this film. And another sci-fi film that feels relevant in our world. We're heading down that AI robotics world, the world of virtual reality. And the Wachowskis really touched on that at such a long time ago, 1999. And just from the set pieces, the story, the twists, the turns, concept of this film, moments that kind of send shivers down your spine, like the I know Kung Fu part, or right, he starts off as this dude who's just working in an office and all of a sudden he's the savior. And the vis effects were so good and the special effects were brilliant, and the fight choreography from Yen Wu Ping, who was absolutely legendary. He worked with Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and Jet Li and Donnie Yen. Literally everyone in martial arts, the best ever. Wire work, which is only really shown and done in Hong Kong films up to that point, and obviously bullet time, which every action movie copied, and there's still films that copy it and do it. But really what's behind it is this story that was just so mind-bending and so weird and different, and it was a perfect film.
How?
He is the one.
Number 3. This movie really used to freak me out, but I loved it then and I love it now. The Thing, 1982, John Carpenter. John Carpenter obviously made Halloween, Escape from New York, They Live. He's a master of horror and a master of sci-fi. Legendary director. In my opinion, it's his best film ever made. The cast was so good. Kurt Russell obviously leads it, and he's just so cool. Keith David was also good, but literally the whole cast was perfect. The concept was just so brilliant about an alien life form that can get into people and infect them and mimic their cells. And just obviously insane practical effects, something that I miss. I'm glad that Alien Romulus did that recently. Just so messed up and scary, and the pacing and suspense is so good, like when they're all sitting around tied up and they do the blood test. Oh,
This is pure nonsense. Doesn't prove a thing.
I thought you'd feel that way, Gary. You were the only one that could have got to that blood. We'll do you last.
Get away from me! Retreating! What is it?
just brilliant, like brilliant writing. But yeah, the practical animatronics done by the legendary Rob Bottin, shit still scares me to this day. Like, it's so gruesome and messed up and just like spidery, and the alien design is so great. The scariest alien design I've ever seen. It also would be in my top 10 for horror. Like, I love this film. It's so scary. It's just a great sci-fi script that, you know, uses a small location but does it perfectly. You never feel like it's a low budget film. And this is 1982. Like, we're talking about films that are like 3-4 decades old now, and they hold up to this day. Like, this is a legendary film. Absolutely love it. Number 2. And it makes sense because I'll be back. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. 1991, James Cameron. James Cameron made, obviously, Titanic, Aliens, Avatar. Another Arnold film, which is crazy. Not really, actually. Schwarzenegger was one of the best action heroes, sci-fi guys for a long time. In my opinion, this is Arnold's best film. Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, Robert Patrick as the amazing villain, as the T-1000, all just perfectly cast. Arnold Schwarzenegger obviously was the star of the show, and the Terminator was so different than the first Terminator because in this one he had personality. He was the hero instead of being the villain in the first one. He was funny, likable, and he was not just this killing machine. The robot design was brilliant and scary. You know, like the skeletal, silver robots with the red eyes, so cool, so freaky. And it freaked me out. It still freaks me out because we could be headed down in that direction. Another film that is a possibility. I mean, it starts off with a nuke, if you remember. I think Linda Hamilton's having a dream, and LA gets nuked, and it's just like, this shit might happen, right? So another film that's just so ahead of its time, 1991. And AI, it's all about AI and Skynet, and the special effects, the visual effects, the makeup, all at that time. The effects of the T-1000, of it being able to change its body into that liquid and create solids and change it, and it was freaky. It morphed through friggin' walls, or jail cells and stuff. The T-1000, this is why Terminator 2 is so great, is because the villain is so good, so dangerous, so smart, and it absolutely dominated throughout the film, so it was such a good head-to-head battle. But James Cameron, this is my favorite Cameron film, but he made this film with heart. There was horror, there was brilliant action scenes, set pieces. It was just a perfect film. Number 1, hang on to your butts. Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg, 1993. Spielbergo, bro. In my opinion, Spielberg's best film. I mean, I love so many of his films, and there's, E.T. could have been on this list. The cast, perfect. Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, who's absolutely brilliant in it, Richard Attenborough, Samuel L. Jackson, Newman, bro, Wayne Knight, so good. And of course the kids, Tim and Lex, they were all perfectly cast, and it's so hard to find great kid actors, and they nailed it. You're scared with them. You're hoping they survive. You see them kind of come into their own and do things, and maybe they're helpless in the beginning, and we start to see their personalities. Like Lex does the hacking thing, and they survive the T-Rex attack. The concept of someone bringing back dinosaurs and creating a park where people go into is just so brilliant, and only Spielberg could have done this film. And this was 1993. We gotta remember that. This still holds up to this day. Nobody's made a dinosaur film that is even nearly as close as good as Jurassic Park could be. Not nearly close. Not even in the same stratosphere. The optimal dinosaur film came out in 1993 when the CGI wasn't even that good. They built the T-Rex. the dinosaurs, and there was CGI in it that was pretty good, but just brilliant. The story is so good. There's so much heart. The suspense, the thrill, like the setup is so good. Just think of the setup, like all the shit we're seeing. We don't know what's going on, and I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters, but I wish I could go back to 1993 and see it for the first time again, because I was probably just so blown away. I can't even remember, but I was probably just so blown away. It was an absolute blockbuster hit, and everybody's been trying to replicate it. Even Spielberg, who made, I think, the second one, tried to do it again and couldn't. Like, these years were the prime blockbuster years, and the filmmaking is just so expertly done. So it's just classic Hollywood. It's like the pinnacle of the blockbuster. I just love this film. It's like, when you watch this film, even these days, it's certain parts you just like want to cheer for the people on screen. Like, it's so engaging that you like cheer, when they escape the raptors, or at the end with the T-Rex. Like, it's so brilliant. And Goldblum, man, he's so good. Like, especially in that role, it was the perfect role for him. He's so smooth, funny. Like, this is the perfect film, and my number one sci-fi film of all time.
We have a T-Rex.
Put your head between your knees.
Dr. Grant, my dear Dr. Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park.
All right, that's it for today. Please drop that like. Please hit the subscribe. It's going to help me out so much. I want to keep bringing you these lists